Welcome to Sunday Night Magic here at GP Lille. You're in the booth with me, Riley Knight. Joining me, my good friend and colleague, the Pro Tour champion, Dr. Simon Goertzen. And Simon, look at this lineup. We've got the world champion Javier Dominguez against Arne Huschenbeth, the rising star from Germany. This one promises to be, the sparks are going to fly, I'll tell you that much.
Arne had to beat Christian Haug in the last round of the Swiss to make it into the top 8. Of course, another German player. Both of them part of the Hararuya teams. And of course, Javier also being sponsored by Hararuya. So we're seeing the mirror match of red shirts here.
Not a mirror match when it comes to the cards being played, however, as Izzet takes on Golgari. And a good start from Dominguez, curving out with a Merfolk Branchwalker into Midnight Reaper. That's a nice start from him.
Yes. Very important, though, that Enigma Drake has 4 toughness. So both of these creatures are not really well positioned right now.
Stonewalled by the Enigma Drake, as it is, of course, a 2/4 right now. Holds them off very tidily indeed. And Enigma Drake definitely playing second fiddle to Crackling Drake, but fantastic in Huschenbeth's list. I want to talk more about what Huschenbeth is working with here, particularly the Goblin Electromancer suite. Simon, there are so many cards in Huschenbeth's list, and you can see the 3 ones that I really want to talk about in his graveyard right now that are so enormously powered up by the Electromancer.
Yeah. Especially when you add Jumpstart to the mix, reducing the cost of cards like Radical Idea by a full mana, halving the mana cost, is just absurd. It really allows the deck to go off instead of just playing a fair game.
We saw a sequence with Huschenbeth on turn number 3 after having resolved an Electromancer on turn number 2 during the Swiss, Simon, where he played a Charter Course after having attacked with the Goblin Electromancer. His opponent contested it with a counterspell. He then fired off a negate for 1 mana and then a Tormenting Voice for another mana as well. A 3 mana discount, 2 damage, and 4 cards off the top of the library, as well as cheap, very, very positive interaction. And all of a sudden, Huschenbeth was completely miles out ahead as a dive down contests this activation of Vraska Golgari Queen. I've been impressed with the style of gameplay that this Phoenix deck tries to enact.
Absolutely, and it's a ton of fun as well. You really have all these options, and you have a lot of power level at your disposal. Look at how these two players actually have been trading blows here. Just basically Huschenbeth saying, I have the dominant board and I'm going to protect it. And that dive down to counter Vraska's -3 ability was absolutely crucial to stay ahead on the battlefield.
Of course, just a one-of in Huschenbeth's list, but as the good Dr. Frank Carsten tells us, that first copy of any card is worth so much more than the second, third, and fourth.
And is Huschenbeth going to leave the Golgari Queen alive? Doesn't look like it. He's holding a shock, so if he wanted to shock the Vraska, he would have done it before damage.
Well, instead it's going to be a second copy of Enigma Drake. Huge better at the moment. I think it's a 7/4.
Yeah, it's actually 2 lethal creatures right now.
And Dominguez is really going to be put to the task. He's got a Ravenous Chupacabra. That'd be good for one of them here, Simon, but he might just be dead in the water.
Mm-hmm. Ravenous Chupacabra is, of course, not mana efficient enough here.
So I guess Dominguez's best out is Arne Huschenbeth having a brain fart and forgetting to attack.
Unlikely,
I would say. The young German, sharp as a pin, and look at this. An early win for Huschenbeth. He's got to be happy with that. Dominguez was sort of outclassed, didn't really put a foot wrong as you'd expect, but just the draw from Huschenbeth, just explosive in its power.
Yep. And that is actually one of the matchups where the discussion is still ongoing. On paper, the Izzet Phoenix deck is favored because of all these flyers, and adding the Enigma Drakes to the mix actually does make a big difference here. But still, you always see this Golgari mid-range deck somehow get out of these difficult positions. If, for example, there's only a single Drake and you get to Chupacabra, you're perfectly fine in that spot. And also, let's not forget, if the Vraska -3 resolves, I think that Dominguez is heavily favored to win the game.
Yes, indeed. Yes, kind of robs all of the wind of from Huschenbeth's sails there, and he wouldn't be able to fly so high. But Huschenbeth had all the answers came up trumps, and as a result, Dominguez, just got put in the ground there.
What Huschenbeth had as a backup plan was actually to draw another creature and to jumpstart maximize velocity.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have given him another way to victory.
I want to dial down on something, Simon, before we discuss sideboarding. You can see there the players both with access to opposing deck lists, of course, just so they're all on even footing during the top 8. This is standard practice throughout top 8s at the GP level and indeed the Pro Tour level. But Simon, something I want to talk about is a point that we've come back to throughout the weekend. The fact that the Golgari list is a little soft to flyers. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, if you can assemble a respectable air force, there's not a whole lot that the Golgari mid-range list can do to contest it. Now, Dominguez is playing 3 copies of Vivian Reed. This is a fantastic answer to flyers. Do you think that the increased number of this Planeswalker in Dominguez's list has contributed to his success against these blue aerial decks?
Honestly, yes, but also I think Vivian Reed might just be the answer to the question which Planeswalker you should be playing.
Yeah.
Because as flyers are the scariest thing you can face, that is often the permanent you want to be destroying with Vraska as well. So Vivian Reed does a good job as well.
We are going to have a look in on our one of our other tables here. Good news for fans of yellow hats around the world, because it is Gab Nassif getting it done. And Simon, you love seeing Curious Obsession plonked on a 1-drop. How about 2 Curious Obsessions?
That's twice as good.
Twice as good, except this one was cast post-combat. But still, we'll take it. The French Hall of Famer getting busy, getting it done against Alvaro Torrisco Jimenez with his tokens list.
He is kind of losing the race, though. That's probably the reason why these other creatures are not attacking.
It seems a little bit difficult here for Nassif to push through the damage he might need, and as a result, the Tempest Chin probably freshly cast here, but he may look to keep that one back and block, although drawing a bunch of extra cards a turn is going to be a nice way here for Nassif to keep himself in it, although under pressure, Simon.
Yes, but I mean under pressure only if Alvaro actually gets to attack, because right now there are 2 blockers that are looking very strong, and do you really want to lose 2 creatures on your attack? It's questionable whether that's going to help.
Should we talk about the tech? Nassif's tech against the token lists? The selective snare, Simon, that comes in post-board to bounce a bunch of tokens, of course. Seems very, very good in a matchup like this. And Judge Call away from the table has kind of slowed down the momentum. We've moved from shuffle cam to judge cam here, but I'm sure we'll be able to get things rolling before too long. I think the judge call is whether the second Curious Obsession gets sacrificed, as it wasn't around for the creature to attack. But that seems like a very easy question to answer. So I don't know. Maybe it's not that. It could be anything. Could be questioning the legality of wearing such garish clothing at the feature match in the feature match era. I'm sure we'll find out. So Jimenez resumes his seat, and looks like we're heading back to the Selesnya player now for his next turn, Simon.
Yeah, maybe we'll get confirmation as what exactly happened there.
Unsure. In any case, back to the races now. Jimenez hell-bent, 6 1/1s in play. Looks like the discussion may have revolved around the fate of that Adanto Vanguard. Very difficult for us to piece together here, so let's just get on with the show and see what's going on. So apparently the question had something to do with the trigger of Merfolk Trickster and its ability and interaction perhaps with the Adanto Vanguard. It doesn't matter. That's in the past, Simon, and I'm all about moving forward, looking into the future. History, that's boring. Don't worry about history. Maybe
if you've already activated it so that it's indestructible, whether that's an ability that you can lose.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tricky question because some things don't count as abilities. I think indestructibility might be one of those, but who knows? Maybe they change the rules again.
I know they have changed the templating of indestructible, but in any case, once again, that's in the rear view.
And what's important now is Nassif has to threaten a 2-turn clock here. Otherwise, you're always at this risk of just losing to a mass pump effect. to that flourish, for example.
Which Jimenez is just one land away from being able to cast.
So
He can activate a Danto this turn.
yeah, I mean, effectively there's already a 1/1 lifelinker in play. It's just not visible yet.
Still hiding behind the wooden palisades of the first fort. In hand for Nassif, looks like a second Tempest Djinn, a charter course there in addition to a Warkite Marauder. And he's doing some quick maths here to figure out exactly how he's going to push through those 16 points of damage before he himself succumbs.
With the second Tempest Djinn coming down, there might actually be a line where you only attack for 3 this turn, and then you attack for 13 or 14 next turn. Because whether the Tempest Djinn attacks this turn or not is actually irrelevant as long as both of your Tempest Djinns connect the turn after.
So, Nassif draws 2. The obsession of the Siren Storm Tamer certainly paying dividends for the French Hall of Famer. Here's a second Tempest Djinn. And we'll see another blocker deployed. I think Nassif has a Syncopate in hand, so that's a great answer to Flower Flourish.
I don't think he has a Syncopate. But
I'll tell you what it is. It's Warkite Marauder, and it looks like the old version of Syncopate. You know, like they've got the yellow and orange lines coming off in the middle? Yeah.
Yeah, looks exactly like a Syncopate.
It looks very similar to it, at least. I don't know how heavily you're ladening your voice with irony, so I choose to assume that you are being earnest, and I thank you for your positivity and support of my original position. Land off the top here for Jimenez. He finds a forest.
And now I think Nassif has maneuvered himself into a position. Yeah, it's clearly now that he's even safe from a flourish, because there's only 3 points of life gain, and if Jimenez attacks with everything, Nassif can even let 2 creatures through.
Yeah. So it looks like it's just going to be the Vampo getting through here to buffer Jimenez back up to 14, but I think this one's in the books already. Looks like the French Hall of Fame is going to take it out easy peasy lemon squeezy. Plays a 6th land. Those Tempest Djinns are uncontested in the air, both of them 6/4s. And this fighting force that Nassif has put together, I think is going to put this game in the books.
It's kind of funny how players are going are leaning towards flyers to beat Golgari, and then Selesnya is kind of getting the
caught in the crossfire.
The splash damage.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, very few ways for the Selesnya deck to meaningfully contest the air, and unfortunately Jimenez pays the price after taking a billion squillion damage thanks to the double Tempest Djinn draw of Gabriel Nassif. Fortunately now, we are going to miss out on Shuffle Cam. I do apologise to those of you who are big fans of watching people mulligan. I'm sure we'll have a chance to showcase that in the future. But right now, it's back to Huschenbett versus Dominguez, and a slower start here from Huschenbett by all means.
Yeah, let's try to understand what happened here. So Dominguez curved out really nicely here with Jadelight Ranger and Deathgorge Scavenger, which aid maximize velocity. Not that that's huge, but it's definitely a card that is going to be really difficult for Huschenbett to play against unless he shocks it right away.
So, the Deathgorge Scavenger gorges no more. Its scavenging days are over. Jadelight Ranger reveals Vraska Golgari Queen here. Man, I just always want to put the first card in the bin.
For value?
Yeah. It's like when you scry twice in a turn, but you've already kept something on top.
Mm-hmm. You feel like you're
just not
maximizing it.
You're not actually using the cards, as Richard Garfield intended, which is the worst crime. Back to Huschenbett now. Finds a 5th land in a mountain off the top. He's got another, I think it's a Steam Vents in hand.
And you can see how different this game feels when the Is It Phoenix deck actually doesn't have that explosive draw, doesn't get onto the battlefield as early as possible, because suddenly the life totals are in a way that Huschenbett can't even think about racing here.
Yeah, precarious they are for Huschenbett here.
And even the 4 toughness on the Enigma Drake is not that great when there is a 4-power Jadelight Ranger on the battlefield, and you have to protect it from Vraska potentially. So actually, I mean, leaving Vraska on top, clearly the best possible play. Getting a 4-power Jadelight Ranger guaranteed, and an answer to the Enigma Drake.
Dominguez has just been out like the clappers here. Look at this. He's got a Llanowar Elf on turn 1, Jade Light Ranger turn 2, Death Gorge Scavenger, another Jade Light Ranger, Vraska in hand. He's got all business all day. I think there's even a Ravenous Chupacabra in hand. This one's going to be a long uphill battle for Huschenbett. It might just be over.
I agree.
Man, the swings are very real here, Simon.
This is kind of what I was saying. I understand that on paper, the Izzet Phoenix deck should be favored against Golgari, but I'm not buying that this is some kind of walk in the park matchup. It just isn't, because it's Golgari and you still have a lot of things that can go wrong.
I don't think there are many lists that have a free win against Golgari.
True.
And conversely, I don't think there are many lists that Golgari has a free win against either.
The 51% deck,
The
50 to 55% deck.
That's how it goes. Here's Vraska Golgari Queen. Dominguez almost guaranteed that it will resolve, given that he had 2 mana up for Spell Pierce should Huschenbett be playing that card. I guess they both have access to the deck list, so they know that that's not an option here. So, all rise for Her Majesty, Queen of the Golgari, and immediately off with his head, she says. But a dive down commutes the sentence, and the Enigma Drake lives to fight another day. Goblin Electromancer now for Huschenbett. In hand, Tormenting Voice, which is a nice one to just be played for 1 mana, should he so choose.
3 spells. That's what Huschenbett needs.
Well, Tormenting Voice is going to be the way to do it. In addition to this Goblin Electromancer, they're just best pals. Goblin Electromancer, Arclight Phoenix, comrades in arms they are. Well, comrades in wings, I suppose. Look at this. Look at the schnoz on the Goblin Electromancer, by the way, Simon. You could hang your washing out on that nose. Looks like a beak. Might be a Goblin Bird Wizard just hiding that from that information from his detractors there. Another Tormenting Voice off the top for Arne Huschenbett. He finds an Opt as well. So he hasn't played a land this turn, so that would give him the option to bring back that Arclight Phoenix.
Does he have a land?
Yeah. Yep.
No,
he doesn't. Sorry, excuse me.
It was just discarded to the Tormenting Voice.
He did discard the. He had the 5th land in hand initially, but I missed the fact he discarded Tormenting Voice.
But he did draw another Tormenting Voice, so now he can go Tormenting Voice again, and hopefully draw something that I can cast.
Discards Maximize Velocity, draws Sulphur Falls, and Sulphur Falls. That'll do it. That'll do it here. Play the Sulphur Falls, play an Opt, and bring back Arclight Phoenix, which, again, can block. I know I keep harping on about this, Simon, but it's a very radical departure from the Bloodghasts and the Blood-Soaked Champions of the world.
Mm-hmm. But the question here is now, do you ignore Vraska or do you want to kill her? That's the first question. The second question is, how aggressive do you get in trying to get Dominguez dead, maybe even in 2 turns? We are not talking about a slow clock here. We're talking about how many instants and sorceries in the graveyard? About 6, 7? So potentially an attack for 10. And
7 is the count. 8 now with this Opt.
There is the slight issue that Dominguez is kind of threatening lethal if the Electromancer dies. So that might be a bit too aggressive.
So there's the Phoenix rising from the ashes, and the Enigma Drake gets across, and this is critical. Mm-hmm. That Arclight Phoenix is staying back on defense. This is not something we see. Imagine, Simon, if Scrapheap Scrounger could have blocked.
Oh yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. This is how powerful this ability is.
I mean, a lot of players, a lot of our viewers have never seen a haste creature not get tapped.
Yeah, that's very true. What is this? An evasive haste creature not attacking? I like it.
Yeah, and Huschenbett had to play this way because there is 4 + 3 + 1, 8 points of power on Dominguez's side of the battlefield.
So he'll leave himself dead to a removal spell.
I'm quite sure if Huschenbett is on 9, he can take a more aggressive line.
Ravenous Chupacabra here. Huschenbett knows that Dominguez is playing, interactive cards like this. And, oh, look at this. Bad dog. Bad boy. Back to the kennel. says the Queen of Hearts. Actually, no, she'd be the Queen of Spades, wouldn't she? Digging down into the undergrowth.
That's a good one.
Thanks very much. And now Dominguez going to line up an attack. These Jade Light Rangers getting busy. With this Enigma Drake out of the way, the pressure has been taken down by the world champion here.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget the maximized velocity, though.
This does mean, yes, that any creature is a very live draw for Huschenbett, especially if it's a Drake of some kind.
Of the crackling variety.
Could be a Crackling Drake, could be an Enigma Drake. Either will get it done with an Enigma, with a maximized velocity.
Looks like it's a crackling Drake for Huschenbett.
So, how many instants and sorceries? The last count was 8. I don't think that's changed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 instants and sorceries. Or is it just 7?
Icon 7.
No, because there's the dive down as well. That's in Huschenbett's hand right now.
Okay. I thought he had
literal hand, not his magic hand.
I thought he had all the creatures in his hand.
Yeah, not quite. So double Tormenting Voice, Opt, Charter Course, Shock, Dive Down, and Maximize Velocity. So the Drake count, currently 8. 8 club bangers. We got Hotline Bling. We got In My Feelings. We've got other Drake songs that I'm not able to Google right now. And here is the Crackling Drake. Draws a card. And what's his next move? Can he crash in for 8 damage now?
He definitely, with the blocks last turn, he gave himself a lot of time. He doesn't have the amount of pressure on the other side anymore that he was facing.
So, a massive beater here in the form of Crackling Drake. This card has been very impressive. Already seeing some modern play as well, which I find quite unbelievable. What a bar to climb. Or to jump, to cross, to clear, I think the saying goes, Simon.
It might be actually game winning here that Huschenbett, although this game is far from over, it might be game winning here that it's a Crackling Drake and not an Enigma Drake, because that would put Huschenbett in an awkward spot with the question of how to deal with the Vraska. If your Enigma Drake is just being threatened to die with the -3, then it's really difficult to attack Dominguez when you know that it'll mean doom. It'll spell doom for your Enigma Drake. Whereas, of course, the forecasting cost creature is safe.
So Huschenbett ends up jump-starting his maximized velocity. 7 instants and sorceries remaining, so an attack for 8 now with the Crackling Drake. Dominguez counts them up. Uno, dos, tres, more Spanish numbers. Ocho. Yep, I know that one. And goes down to 3. Now, can the world champion do anything about this massive Drake that's threatening to end this, well, not just this game, but just this match as well here?
More like Oucho.
Very good, Simon. It's an actual joke.
Yeah, German joke.
An actual real joke you made. That's very good. He's going to gain a bunch of life here from the Wild Growth Walker, so that'll stem the bleeding just a little bit here. Put himself back up at 9. We know that Huschenbett is capable of putting many instants and sorceries in his bin in a great hurry and flurry. And we'll see if he's able to do that and take Dominguez down a peg or 2 here. The other thing is Huschenbett's life total is still well and truly under siege. The Wild Growth Walker now a 3-5.
It's always a race. With this Izzet Phoenix deck, you're always racing against any kind of creature deck. It's different when you have the luxury of playing against control, but against Golgari midrange, against any kind of Selesnya aggro deck, it's always a race. Which makes it so interesting to play the Phoenix deck. And I think Dominguez doesn't find the removal that he needs.
Bit of a stinker of a draw there in the form of a Llanowar Elves. He has Carnage Tyrant in hand and a bunch of lands, so things really not going Dominguez's way here.
He has to be very concerned that he's taking lethal.
On 10 life, with a 7/4 Enigma Drake, Crackling Drake, and all Huschenbett needs is, a nice Charter Course or a Tormenting Voice or something like that, and he's going to be in business. Crackling Drake off the top here.
Not the perfect draw, but a redraw.
Yeah. See what he can find now. Oh, runner, Crackling Drake.
Crackling Drake flooded.
It's all crackle and no pop now for Arne Huschenbeth because he cannot push through lethal this turn, Simon.
So suddenly it's a different game once again. And something that I wanted to mention, these Arclight Phoenixes, as good as they are, it's not like they are always coming back when they've died. It is a bit of work to get to that point, and you can certainly not do it every single turn.
So an attack for 7 now looks to be on the cards here for the German.
Can you risk that?
In the face of Wild Growth Walker and Jadelight Ranger. And, excuse me, Enigma Drake only counts him in the graveyard. The Crackling Drake also counts him in exile.
Absolutely.
So it is a 9-drop.
It is.
No. Oh, no. Arne Huschenbeth could have cast Disdainful Stroke on his own Crackling Drake to attack for lethal this turn.
Yes. He was missing just 1 point of damage.
And he had it in hand.
But maybe he decided against it because he was scared of the mana that Dominguez has open.
Something like a Cast Down or an Assassin's Trophy.
Well, Cast Down you can't Disdainful Stroke. So in this case you would be losing to the... Because this line loses to Cast Down. If an end of turn Cast Down on your Crackling Drake, we'll just lose you the game.
Well, as it is, Huschenbeth had a potentially game-winning line, opted against it, Simon.
I think that's only correct if your read is that there is a Vraska's Contempt in Dominguez's hand. Well, to not go for it, because that's the card that punishes you, and you could have done something about it. Because all the other cards that cost less than 4, you would actually be able to beat. I think Huschenbeth is getting rewarded here though, because he might get to Disdainful Stroke that Chupacabra.
Yeah, yep, and that means that he's going to have a Crackling Drake. He's going to have an embarrassment of Crackling Drakes here. Double Llanowar Elves in hand for Dominguez. That was the peel for this turn. And even with the aid of Vraska Golgari Queen, Dominguez is really under the gun.
Tight play here, tight sequencing by Dominguez. Let's first check what we can draw, because maybe that gives us another option that we didn't have before. And
there's a Cast Down. He finds it, Simon.
Unbelievable.
This is going to really change things here. Cast Down removes the Crackling Drake. Arne Huschenbeth is not able to answer this removal spell as it costs less than 4.
And that's it.
That's going to be it. Javier Dominguez has stolen. He has snatched victory from the jaws of defeat here.
Super impressive.
All he has to do is send in the clowns. He does exactly that, and we're going to go to game 3. Arne Huschenbeth went down swinging, and he's going to be there scratching his head saying, where did this one go wrong?
Should he have countered his own Drake?
In this situation,
you have to.
It would have won the game.
No, but just objectively, was it correct to play? The only thing he beats with this line is a Vraska's Contempt. Everything else he's really weak against.
But the thing is, Dominguez can rip that Cast Down. He can find that Assassin's Trophy. There are ways. Oh, man, it's really tough, isn't it?
I think it was a mistake. I think you have to go for lethal.
Just make hay while the sun shines. Because the thing is, if Dominguez doesn't have it, you put him to the question immediately. You give him fewer chances to find the cards he needs. And the other thing is, Dominguez had multiple cards to draw. He had the Memorial to Folly to bring back a card from the graveyard. He was able to draw from the top of the library and then activate his Vraska.
Yeah. I mean, the Memorial to Folly wasn't a big deal, because getting Chupacabra was kind of part of Arne's plan. But the rest, all of it is certainly relevant.
Well, we're going to get a game 3, and I imagine the people around the world very, very happy with the fact that this drama, this action will continue. But now we can take a quick break from it, head over back to our second table, where Alvaro Torresco Jimenez has his work cut out for him, taking down the Hall of Famer Gabriel Nassif. Looks like he's on the front foot here with these Adanto Vanguards. And
kind
Nassif,
of, right? I mean, they're attacking into a horse that Gabriel Nassif is not too keen on keeping, and then into a Tempest Gen. So that's quite a lot of points of life that you have to invest if you want to keep them around.
The Diamond Mare as a 1/3 is a nice defensive option against the lower to the ground defensive decks in Standard, and of course gaining a little bit of life here and there as well.
Very good sideboard card against the almost monocolored aggro decks. Not a very good main deck card, though.
And it's going to cost Jimenez 4 life to keep his Vanguard alive in the face of that Diamond Mare. So the horse goes off to the glue factory, and now Lyra Dawnbringer comes down as a huge haymaker for Jimenez.
And that's...
But Gabriel Nassif rips. Has he got a fifth? Has he got a seventh land here?
No.
He does not. Boo.
That would have been insane.
That would have been redonkulous, I would say. It would be several stages above ridiculous, all the way into redonkulous territory. But instead, it's just going to be sleep.
That might also be ridiculous.
That I think is also going to be ridiculous, Simon. Not quite into redonkulous territory, but still. Maybe I can get you up to redonkulous, but not much further than that. Sleep's going to keep all these boys tapped down here. And that means that Jimenez is really in a world of pain. I think we might see the entrancing melody for 0.
We do. And we do see it after sleep.
So it doesn't untap?
No, it will untap. I think.
It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, but it will untap during...
I think Nassif would have still been better off with an untapped Knight.
I think so. Yeah. How does this work? Does the creature gain the ability?
No, I think sleep doesn't affect the creatures. Well,
no.
Sleep affects the next untap step.
Those creatures don't untap during that player's next untap step. So, unfortunately for Gabriel Nassif, his Knight won't untap during Jimenez's untap step. He's devastated.
And you can. I mean, it's obvious that if you know how your turn will play out, if you've made all your decisions before you actually do any game actions, you just cast the entrancing melody before you cast sleep.
Yes. In any case, it doesn't matter. That Knight has changed sides.
Unless there's a 1/1 haste creature now to punish. Or an untap effect.
Just really, really get you. But I don't think Jimenez has anything of the sort. He plays a land, shifts it back to Nassif. All Nassif has to do is send him sideways. Or in the case of the Knight, not even that.
So, Alvaro drew his March, I believe. Is there some kind of trick, some kind of trap that he can set up?
Oh, to gain a bunch of life.
Where he stays alive because Nassif suddenly has a blockable creature and attacks with it?
So Nassif has to not attack.
But Nassif is not going to run into that.
He has to not attack with the Knight and also then forget he's holding a copy of Spell Pierce.
Okay, that's
a big ask.
I think he even won't do the first mistake.
Well,
he won't make the first mistake.
I'll put the line at the second.
Okay. No, actually, I mean... if you think that your Tempestion might die, I don't know the exact sideboard of Alvaro, then it is correct to attack with both, and then you have to do the math whether it's only not correct to attack with the Knight if the March with 2 mana open beats your attack.
So it looks like Nassif is just going to play it safe, attack with these guys, get it done. I mean, he's thinking, what can Jimenez have here that's going to punish me? The answer is very little. Both of these creatures are lethal attackers.
I mean, he's called Yellowhead for a reason. He's not going to mess this up.
What's the significance of the yellow hat?
He just he's always worn a yellow hat.
Okay, all right. There's no hidden meaning to it.
There's also a Japanese commercial where they sing Yellow Hat, which is a very good fit.
Well, a very good fit for Gabriel Nassif is the semi-final of GP Lille, because that is where he's going after beating Alvaro Torresco Jimenez. He didn't attack with the Knight token. That March of the Multitudes proved useless to him, and as a result, Gabriel Nassif takes it out in straight sets over Alvaro Torresco Jimenez. Just want to pause for a second and say congratulations to Jimenez, making it all the way to the top 8 with a list that I think was heavily, heavily underrated. I'd love to see more Selesnya. I don't think we've seen the best version of this deck. It plays some cards that I'm always happy to play. History of Banalian, Banalish Marshal, of course Legion's Landing as well. And Simon, I expect to see a lot more of Selesnya tokens.
I expect more Selesnya and also more Boros. These are the 2 decks that haven't been heavily represented here. We already hear from across the ocean that Boros decks have some more fans, some more professional fans, and I'm only interested how this develops towards the Pro Tour.
Well, let's get underway with our quarterfinals now between Arne Huschenbeth and Javier Dominguez. These guys are getting ready now for game number 3, and we can refresh ourselves and have a look at these lists. These lists are, of course, posted online, I think on Daily MTG. You can get across all of the top 8 deck lists as they stand. Or you can have a look at your screen. That's going to make it easier for you here and now. Huschenbett with a pretty powerful creature suite, especially, Simon, when the card Maximize Velocity can get him into the red zone nice and quick. We saw the power of Enigma Drake, Crackling Drake. Arclight Phoenix hasn't really been put through its paces on camera this round, but hey, there's still one more game. Your take on this matchup is that it's very close, but the Phoenix deck is slightly favoured. How is that holding up for you so far?
Well, I think the games have played out like we expected, with board presence being the deciding factor in who wins. But it's actually not the Arclight Phoenixes which make me think that this deck is favored. It's really the fact that you have 4 Enigma Drakes and 3 Crackling Drakes, which are just tough to deal with. 4 toughness is huge. 4 mana, 4 casting cost on the Crackling Drake is huge. And if you suddenly risk tapping out for a Chupacabra, you can get really punished by those dive downs, maybe even Disdainful Stroke.
Plenty of interaction in the board as well, which I'm sure we'll see brought to bear. Things like Lava Coil, Disdainful Stroke, what have you. But let's have a look at at Dominguez's list as well here, Golgari mid-range. We've talked about some of the hard-hitting heavyweights in this list, Carnage, Tyrant, Fine Finality, and of course Vivian Reed. And I really like the position that all of these cards are in. Simon, let's compare and contrast Javier Dominguez's list with Christian Hulk's list. Now, Hulk unfortunately didn't make the top 8. He was playing 4 Llanowar Elf, 4 Druid of the Cowl, and then 4 Carnage Tyrant and 4 Find Finality. This guy knew what he wanted to do when he turned up at this tournament and had his own take on the list. But Dominguez was the one who ended up in the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, Dominguez is an amazing player, and Dominguez also knew what he wanted to do. He just didn't go to this extreme of 4 offs all the way and playing Druid of the Cowl. I think his deck is a really balanced Golgari list that doesn't play anything that's bad or anything in numbers where you could point to and say this is too many of that. Maybe the one Rejuvenator you can talk about. You can talk about whether you need exactly 3 Ravenous Chupacabras, but ultimately this is a deck. If you bring this to the Pro Tour, nobody can say anything bad about it.
No, it's kind of right in the middle of the road when it comes to Golgari mid range and what it's all about there.
I do think that his sideboard is not perfectly positioned to deal with the Izzet deck list, because ultimately what he would want to have is more answers to the Drakes, and just bringing in a Cast Down and a few Deathgorge Scavengers doesn't do it for me.
Couple of results from the back tables. This indeed now is our last game in our quarterfinals, because Christopher Larsen, the Danish juggernaut, has beaten Florian Trotter 2 games to 1 on the back tables, as indeed has Etienne Bousson, who beat his opponent 2 games to 1 as well. So our semi-finalists so far, as you can see, Christopher Larsen, the Danish juggernaut, will be facing off against Yellow Hat Gabriel Nassif, the French Hall of Famer. And Carlos Morel went down in straight set. 2-1 here to Etienne Bousson, and now Bousson will play the winner of this game here between Dominguez and Huschenbett.
Which means we get to see them on a red deck, which would be really cool.
Finally, so we're waiting all weekend for a momentous occasion like this. These players examining their opening hands. Huschenbett does not look like a happy chappy with what he has ripped off the top of his library to start game number 3. And he's actually already gone down to 6 by the look of things as well. That's a rough start here for the German. And a 1-lander as well. I think he got to send it back.
He lost game 2. That means he's on the play. And you are... Actually, this deck is quite mana hungry in a weird way. It doesn't play a lot of lands, but because it has this high number of cantrips, you actually want to reach, of course, your 4th land drop on turn 4 if possible.
I think, it's the velocity of the deck that really makes up for its low land count. But starting off with a single basic mountain, unless you've got a Tormenting Voice and that you think you've got a good shot of finding that. The thing is, Huschenbett here is on the play. He doesn't get that extra draw step, and I think going down to 5 is the right call here.
Yeah, I mean,
I commend him for it. It's a tough decision to make.
Being on the play also means you really don't want to be on 5, but you have to do what you have to do.
You have to do what you have to do, and I commend Huschenbett for being able to make a difficult decision.
I think what you now want is you want to have a hand that can draw out of its troubles. And I think that is possible with multiple Crackling Drakes, if you get to that point. But also maybe just a Goblin Electromancer, attack with it, and then play those Charter Course.
Play a Charter Course. I think what Huschenbett is looking for here is, rather than action, is all of those draw spells, because they are going to give him the greatest chance to sculpt a better looking hand. Whether it's Tormenting Voice, whether it's Charter Course, whether it's even just Radical Idea, that's going to give him the best shot at putting together a hand that isn't completely embarrassing on 5 cards.
Absolutely. And also his threats rely on those spells.
Exactly.
So there's really no way around it.
Oh, no. It's a 0 lander here. It's all come apart at the seams here for Huschenbett. Geez, that's a rough beat. There's very little to say about a situation like this. You don't really want a GP, campaign to end in this way, and you can see that Huschenbett is really not happy about how this is coming to fruition. Look at that.
He's now thinking about his scry. If he can find a blue source on top.
If he can find a blue source on top, he's in with a sniff. But look at this. Javier Dominguez sitting pretty. He is loving his chances here. He's absolutely on a tear, this bloke. Richard Hagen making a brief appearance on... Oh, and Stephen Leeming, our producer, very quickly sliding away from that shot. But Huschenbett here. Look, my heart goes out to him. Really tough spot to find yourself in the quarterfinals of a GP.
So we have a break after this round.
Yeah.
If I go up to him and ask him about this disdainful stroke play, would that be reasonable or unreasonable?
I definitely wouldn't be doing it today. I'd like to come back to it and hear his thoughts
because
on
that's
it.
kind of my style.
Well, I tell you what, you're... So, have you heard the Theodore Roosevelt saying, speak softly but carry a large stick?
Yes, of course.
Yes, it's advice when it comes to managing international diplomacy. Yeah,
isn't that like Cold War rhetoric?
No, not quite. It was a little bit before the Cold War, but as a mate of yours, Simon, and as someone who I hope whose advice you don't summarily ignore as much as you pretend to all the time, I think you should work on the first part just a little bit more than you do. The big stick part.
It's fine.
Great. Really, really good. No, like, no kidding. Fantastic big stick work from you all the time. But the speaking softly bit, I would leave Huschenbett to process that play before interrogating him about it. Here's a Merfolk Branch Walker from Javier Dominguez, and Huschenbett has found a land, and which means an opt is going to send a card below decks. Can he find his second land? He cannot. So rough stuff here for Huschenbett, and Dominguez only really needs to put together even a mediocre curve out to really start to school Huschenbett. And Huschenbett's looking at that as if he could see that Assassin's Trophy, and Dominguez hands like, just cast it. Cast on anything, I don't care, please.
Instead, it's more discards.
So goes from bad to worse here for Huschenbett, out of the frying pan into the fire. And a blazing inferno it is indeed. And
here you just take the Tormenting Voice to stop on if I'm doing what his deck wants to do.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't see taking a removal spell.
No, I mean, what do they do? What does he do? Kill your Branch Walker? Fine, that's fine.
Actually, he kind of has to, because he's so restricted on mana, he can't just sit there and not do anything. So he's almost priced into using the removal spell on the creatures that he doesn't want to kill.
Dominguez slowly and methodically places, delicately even, places that Tormenting Voice in the graveyard of Arne Huschenbett. And now, back to Huschenbett, who finds a land. It's going to come into play tapped, but still, a shock will be a great play here for Huschenbett in order to just stem the bleeding just a little bit. Let's see what Dominguez's next play is. If he's got something like a one of the powerful 4-drops, a Vraska or something, well, the Jadelight Ranger's not bad either. Deathgorge Scavenger. And now a Duress to follow that up as well. That gets rid of the Lava Coil here, Simon.
Yep, the final card that you could actually snatch with Duress.
And a Mountain now as well. So, look at this. Arne Huschenbett, all of a sudden, he's like, oh, mate, you know all those instants and sorceries you discarded? Please and thank you.
Yep, has a 4/4.
Check out my 4/4 for 3.
Now, if that just gets handled with a Chupacabra or a Vraska,
yeah,
that would really be frustrating. But it looks like Huschenbeth can at least stay in this game for a bit longer.
The Jade Light Ranger comes across for 4. Huschenbeth has the option to block, of course. Don't know that he's going to take it. And we'll see a Seeker's Squire and a sigh of relief now for Huschenbeth. I'm sure, as he does need that Enigma Drake to survive. And a Death Gorge Scavenger is going to bring its power down just a little bit here. Lava Coil hits the Exile Zone. How ironic. Like rain on your wedding day, Simon.
No, I'm still not sure how much I like the Death Gorge Scavenger in this matchup.
I'm surprised to see it being brought in.
Well, it does eat Arclight Phoenix occasionally, maybe a Jumpstart card. And you don't have, in the case of Javier Dominguez's sideboard, you don't have that many cards to bring in anyway.
That's true. Well, here's Arclight Phoenix Au Natural from Arne Huschenbeth. I tell you what, he's found his lands all right, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's looking a lot better than it was when he passed the turn. His first turn without playing a land.
But still not attacking with the 3-2. I don't think we've seen Huschenbeth attack with an Arclight Phoenix throughout the entire quarters here. Let's see what his next move is now. The ball back in Dominguez's court, the world champion. Able to pull together his next play. Looks like it's going to be a Jade Light Ranger and a Duress off the top. That's going in the bin. He's decided he's torn his hand apart enough. And so a 3-2 Jade Light Ranger draws a swamp now for Dominguez.
Dominguez generating so much value.
Now, Dominguez has some interesting decisions to make when it comes to his attacks, because no matter what he does, Huschenbeth's blocks are going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the issue here. You don't want to give your opponent too many blocks with the Phoenix, although you know that they can't have many instants and sorceries left in their hand after all those duresses. And at the same time, you don't want to just suicide your creatures.
So, Dominguez. What's he up to here? He's got the option of attacking with almost the entire team, just that Jade Light Ranger in the bottom right, unable to get busy this time around. And so in they come, just the single Merfolk Branchwalker sticking back on defense. And this makes good sense. Now it means that Huschenbeth has no free blocks, but can still line up some pretty good trades were it not for this Assassin's Trophy. Now, Simon, have I missed something here, or could have Dominguez cast the Assassin's Trophy and then attack with the Scavenger to exile it straight away?
That's why I'm a bit surprised as well.
Is there a reason not to do that?
No, I think getting rid of the Arclight thing, unless you are just entirely sure that the Phoenix is never coming back.
I suppose the only reason there is that the Scavenger then can get eaten up by the Enigma Drake.
No, I don't really see that.
Okay.
I was thinking whether giving Huschenbeth the mana was too risky, so that you didn't want to give Huschenbeth the mana right away.
Well, in any case, that's the way this particular cookie has crumbled. A Goblin Electromancer to play for Huschenbeth. Javier Dominguez gets them all in. He only has to do 4 points of damage, and he does it easy peasy, just like that. Javier Dominguez is in the semi-finals, which are coming your way right now. We'll see you back in Lille after this.